Give me a little bit of history about what prompted you to do this, though, because we haven't actually talked about that. So normally one of the first questions I ask is, why on earth did you start this program? I mean, were you walking around the Bahamas and you saw there were hungry people? How did you get inspired, or was this overseas? What happened?
Well, I do just want to preface this by saying this, although I've made a few phone calls with this project, it's a total community effort, and there are a number of volunteers that are heavily involved in it. So we've all had the experience where we go into a restaurant buffet, or we've been in Starbucks when it's closing, and they're just handing away bagfuls of muffins. So we've all had the thought before. In my particular case, I had taken some time off school. I mentioned before I was playing competitive tennis in college, and I was kind of going through just a bit of a transitional period and some self-discovery and that kind of thing.
That kind of thing.
Yeah,
I love it.
that kind of thing. And I did want to find a way to become more involved in the community in an impactful way. And I don't have a great background in environmental science or that kind of thing, but obviously that's the generational movement that's taking place. So when I got thinking about beach cleanups and the quality of fuel emissions and reducing traffic and that kind of thing, I think it just became pretty evident that people that don't have that basic need met first, how can they go from worrying about their next meal to trying to contemplate the quality of fuel emissions or cleaning up a beach? It doesn't make sense, and
sort of like the pyramid of priorities, essentially.
Right, whatever psychology or theory we want to use to categorize it. And so I just think that we're missing the boat in terms of identifying what needs to be done, and everywhere you go, every day, you can hear people laying out the social ills of the Bahamas.
Yeah.
But I think there's a generally misunderstanding with regards to what needs to be addressed first, and then there's also inaction when it comes to actually doing things about it.
Yes.
So that's kind of how it started for us, and I think everybody, like I said, can identify, and so the concept caught on very rapidly in the community, and nobody loses from this because everybody benefits from having a community that's healthy.
And one of the things that I wanted to bring up when we were talking about stigma, but I think it's perfect at this point too, is these are one of these, there's a number of things. I've had people come on and talk about sexual and child abuse and these sorts of things too, and hunger in the Bahamas is not something we talk about.
No,
there are certain things that are, not that they're fully taboo.
Right.
I don't know if it's not on people's radar, or maybe it is taboo. Like, I haven't really got my finger on what it is, but it's definitely one of the things, the more that it's talked about, the better the situation will be. Simply the discussion often leads to improvements, and this is perhaps a bad analogy, but there was a lot of stigma associated with a certain male health problem that when Bob Dole started talking about it, and he talked about it a lot, it was amazing. All of a sudden it was okay to talk. Not all of a sudden, but it took like 10 years. But now it was acceptable that when these men have these issues, they can go to their doctor and talk about it. And I would love that simply the discussion about hunger in the Bahamas leads to greater awareness and leads to this reduction in stigma, and just people being like, wow, there's people who don't have enough food. Let's feed them. Not, oh, wow, let's not worry about that.
Right. I mean, I think it is very difficult to avoid having to look face on with some of the issues that we face in the country. But if you drive around the island, I mean, you're going through the Carmichael area and Kemp Road, and I mean, you can't escape it. And we did a site visit to the AIDS camp a few weeks ago, and I'm 21 years old, and that was the first time I'd ever been to the AIDS camp. And you're still probably one of like the 10, maybe 5% of Bahamians who have been out there. Perhaps. And it's not that, I'm not saying go out there to make yourself feel guilty and to feel bad about the fact that it exists, but you need to be aware of what's going on, and at least give yourself the opportunity to say, yes, I want to make a difference, or no, I don't, and to have an understanding of what is taking place, because, I mean, I think it's very easy to live your life when you don't have to confront the issues that are taking place, and at least give yourself the choice of being aware, because it is out there, and it does exist, and it's just something that is preventable and actually can be eliminated if we just channel our resources more effectively. So, excellent. Well, we are going to take our another break right now, but then come back with us, because I hope you're feeling at least slightly inspired too to see what Alanna and her sister and their 150 other volunteers are doing here to try and
improve this particular situation, but the idea, which I'm sure you're getting across, is just to make the Bahamas a better country. And this is something which I'm feeling inspired about the efforts that they're doing. So please come back in and get inspired yourself.